out. I really just once, so. But still, like 7 years before.
Yes, that is a great thing for your student workers.
Yes.
Hmm?
Yeah, it's not like now there's not a whole lot going on.
Yeah.
Afghanistan.
One sec. I'm gonna readjust this though, so.
So Afghanistan, Helmand Province was 2013, and then we were stationed in Kuwait, and then as like Al Qaeda in Iraq was becoming ISIS, so then we went up to northern Iraq and we were training the Kurds for a bit. Then 2015, I was in Saudi Arabia, Riyadh capital. Then 2016, if you're looking at Syria like this, we would have been in like the northeast pocket in a little town called Masaka. So we were one of the first teams.
Because I was coming in as a sheriff, you had an office, so you can take over the chart and LinkedIn. I was like, no problem. And I had so much fun.
All right. Thank you for being here. Okay. So this is our distinguished seminar series, and we want to welcome Greg Hatcher here. All right. So Greg has served in the Army and NSA. He has like a lot of cybersecurity background. Also one of the founders of White Knight Labs. So he's going to give talk on offensive cybersecurity. So unfortunately, I have to go to another meeting. So I'm going to just introduce and run. So please join me in welcoming Greg.
Yeah, thanks everybody. So as DJ already said, my name is Greg Hatcher. I did graduate from GVSU many moons ago with an undergraduate degree in political science. I did not end up using that to do anything poli-sci related. I now hack stuff and invest in real estate. So right after graduating, I enlisted in the United States Army. I did 7 years in Army Special Operations as a Green Beret, 4 combat deployments to the Middle East. Right after that, I got out in 2017, dove headfirst into offensive cyber. My first job was actually at VDA Labs, which is another boutique offensive shop here in Grand Rapids. From there, I went over to 6th Gen. I contracted over at the NSA to teach. And after that, I led a CISA Red Team. If you aren't familiar with CISA, it is the cyber arm of the Department of Homeland Security. So, and then in 2021, my business partner and I, John Steigerwald, we founded White Knight Labs because we were tired of the normal churn of the other consultancies. So they would hire low-tier talent and then charge like a very exorbitant day rate, like $3,500 a day. So we don't do anything like that. Quick background on the company. So here are some of our clients. A lot of these are actually based out of Grand Rapids or Rockford. Rockford Construction is on there. Acrisure is they're a multi-billion-dollar insurance firm headquartered in Grand Rapids. US Signal is a local MSP. And yes, we've done multiple engagements for Grand Valley State University itself. So Lake Michigan Credit Union, Advanced Radiology Services, they're right out of Grand Rapids as well. So within WKL, there's 2 main branches. There's the services side where we do internal, external network penetration testing. We attack web apps, API, cloud environments. Within cloud, I would say our more mature departments are AWS, GCP, and Azure, not Oracle. Yeah, one time Marriott approached us to do a penetration test of their Oracle infrastructure. We were like, no. Yeah, so more in the company. We teach at Black Hat, NorthSec up in Montreal. We give talks at GerCon. A lot of NSA folks, a lot of CISA folks at the company, and ex-Microsoft. So the point of today's talk is there's a lot of frustration on LinkedIn when I hear people talking about trying to break into offensive cybersecurity, mostly because they're focusing on the wrong things. They're focusing on having like a really good resume or like trying to get the CISSP certification, which is not a good certification to get if you want to be hands-on technical. So just a show of hands, who is cyber and who's comp sci in the room? Who's cyber? Cool. Computer science? Awesome. Who's neither? Okay. What do you do?
Masters for data science.
Okay. So what is offensive cybersecurity? The field didn't really exist 4 years ago, but it's network penetration testing, and then within network penetration testing, there's attacking a network from the outside. So like if you are Meijer, for example, you have all these externally facing web applications, the APIs, that would be me attacking those. And then there's also internal network penetration testing where I'm starting on the inside of the network. I already have like a NAT IP address, and then I'm just trying to get domain admin. So web app and API, just like you think of what it is. Say you're using Amazon to go buy something. Amazon.com itself is a web application. So you're trying to get things like cross-site scripting, server-side request forgery, find logic bugs, like put more things in the cart that you don't want to actually pay for and then try to check out. That would be a goal during web application penetration test. Then within cloud penetration testing, there's Google Cloud Platform, which is Google's cloud. There's Azure, which is Microsoft's cloud, and AWS, which is Amazon's cloud. AWS was first, far and away. If it was 5 years ago, I would say that AWS would be like the shareholder, majority shareholder of all cloud infrastructure, but Azure is really eating away at their lead right now. Also, physical access operations. We just did one for Life EMS. They own a lot of the ambulance providers in Grand Rapids. So for physical access operations, we will go on site, usually in the middle of the night. The goal again is to gain surreptitious access to the building. So we use a lot of the same hardware that firefighters and first responders use. So we'll actually go under the door with a piece of steel and unlock the door from the inside. If there's RFID in use for badges for employees to get into the building, we can actually clone the badge from about 12 inches away. Yeah. If you guys have any questions, feel free to interrupt me. But a lot of people don't know that physical access operations is a real thing when people want to test the security or people and processes of their building. Full scope red team operations usually also includes physical access operations, but full scope would be, as opposed to a penetration test, which is more like a smash and grab where we're being very loud on the network, it's objective focus. So say Grand Valley State University hired WKL to run a full scope red team operation. That would be like, can you gain access to all the social security numbers of the students for the school? Can you gain access to strategic plans for the next 20 years? Can you gain access to the donor list of people that donate $1 million or more of money to the school? So it's really more like a strategic focus as opposed to like find and exploit all the vulnerabilities and misconfigurations of the network. And then everyone at WenNet Labs is a developer. So typically most people focus on Windows malware development for their loader development. We are seeing a lot more Mac OS and Linux though in the environment. I know that was like a quick primer in basically all of offensive cyber. Do you guys have any questions on that? Okay.
What's your favorite one to do?
I really enjoy physical access operations and web application penetration testing.
So say you're doing like a physical access operations where you're going there, if you get found out by someone that knows you're not supposed to be there, and how do you then handle that situation?
So one of the requirements for us to even be on site is we have to have what's called a get out of jail free card that is signed by what's called a white cell. That those are the people at the company that are paying us to attack in the first place. And then usually the police will get that get out of jail free card and they'll call a point of contact. We did have physical go bad last summer, and like the operators were arrested and the police were not interested in seeing the get out of jail free card. So we had to de-escalate pretty quickly. Okay, so mistakes of trying to break in cyber, basically not specializing in anything. Whenever people are trying to get into hacking, they get overwhelmed quickly because there's embedded devices, there are web apps, APIs, there's all the different types of cloud environments. So it's like, oh no, there's so much, what do I do? And then they don't end up doing anything. That's wrong. So it's okay to be a generalist for a period of time, but then typically if you want to be world-class in your field, you're going to have to specify or be more specific about what you want to do. So I want to attack web applications, so a really good web application penetration tester will be able to string bugs together. So maybe they find an error code, like a 403 or something, or 404, and they're able to get like a stack trace, and then they're able to do a server-side request forgery. and they're able to pull down the environment keys, and then they're able to do like AWS admin account takeover with that information. So we're able to chain things together as opposed to just running like an active scanner vulnerability scanner against the web application. Second thing, I already kind of touched on this, being overwhelmed. There is a lot to offensive cyber. If you're active on LinkedIn or Discord or Slack in these hacking groups, everyone's always like dropping new hotness, new tools. Yeah, it's important to stay laser focused on you though. Getting your own certifications. I wish somebody would have told me that the CISSP and the CISM were not technical certifications and that there was a waste of time to chase them. We'll go over some of the good certifications to get if you want to be hands-on technical and offensive cyber. These are like the ones that the industry cares about. Fourth mistake, not being involved in the community. Kind of like Exhibit A, I'm giving a talk right here at GVSU. There's also tons of other groups like MySec, which is a nonprofit. They're based out of, there's one in Grand Rapids, there's one in Jackson, there's one in Southfield. There's actually one in Marquette as well, weird enough. There's also the Cloud Security Alliance if you like attacking cloud or learning about cloud. I recommend going to those meetups and just talking to people. Not building anything, yeah, like kind of to be well known in the field and have like a personal brand, you need to build stuff. And then boiling the ocean, that's trying to do all the things and not focusing on anything. Go ahead.
What type of things that do you recommend like building? Like what do you mean by that? By building?
Building tooling or writing blogs, just creating stuff. Skills to be successful. Obviously, like if you're going to be a hacker, you need to be hands-on technical. With that, being hands-on technical in like a couple languages is going to be really critical. Like if you want to write malware development for the Windows operating system, you probably want to pick like C or C++ or C#. But if you want to be hands-on technical attacking web applications, APIs, maybe you want to go towards more like a Python or JavaScript. Soft skills. Soft skills is critical. That's a critical skill to be successful in anything in life, especially when you're working with people. I personally run a consultancy, so being able to express my ideas, not using technical jargon, is really critical because a lot of times I'm in front of CEOs of businesses that paid a lot of money for a test, and they don't know what Active Directory is. They don't know what domain admin is. Like I can't talk about relaying NTM, relaying hashes, for example. I need to put everything in terms of risk to the business and quantify it that way. Networking, already mentioned this, but like cloud security events, Cloud Security Alliance is right here in West Michigan, MySec, ISSA. Yeah, there's tons of meetings or meetups you can go to. I'm curious, is there like meetups at GVSU for like computer science or cyber? Okay, cool. There's like clubs or something?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, sweet. Yeah, scripting, software development, we already talked about that. Whatever languages you learn, just make sure that they're focused on the thing that you want to do. Critical thinking, I think we wouldn't be here if we were able to think critically. And then self-learning. So the self-learning piece is really critical because like you will graduate college one day and then you have to keep learning. So learning how you learn is really important. So there's VARC is visual, auditory, read, write, and kinesthetic. Kinesthetic is the one that is probably the best for cyber, in my opinion. Kinesthetic is learning by doing. It's really hard to learn how to program, like reading about it or listening to a podcast about it. So I steer towards the K in the VARC. Certifications that are worth a damn. So it's like the top is the very beginner friendly, all the way to kind of like nosebleed expert. So the top would be the PJPT. I think it's $300 to $400. That's the Practical Junior Penetration Tester. That is geared specifically towards network penetration testing, so that is not web app or API focused. Then the second tier would be the PNPT and the OSCP. PNPT is just one step above PJPT, a Practical Network Penetration Tester. And then that third tier, OSWE, OSEP, and then CRTL with the SWORD. OSWE is, I think, is the gold standard for someone wants to break into web application and API penetration testing. It's an extremely challenging certification. It's 48 hours, hands-on. You're going to have to read source code and then develop exploits by hand to bypass security controls. And the bottom, I don't want to like, I eat my own dog food, but we wrote those courses and certifications. So White Knight Labs, as you can see here, but we wrote a lot of our own because we wanted a certification that if someone passed it, we knew they would be able to like write malware or stand up secure red team infrastructure in the cloud across GCP, Azure, and AWS, which is the RTOC course. So left to right, OEPC is the Offensive Development Practitioner course. I wrote that about 4 years ago. I taught that while I was Hacking Fest a couple times in South Dakota. And that course focuses strictly on bypassing EDR products for the Windows operating system. And then RTOC, my business partner wrote that, the Advanced Red Team Operations course. And then Offensive Azure Operations Tradecraft on the far right, that's all about attacking Azure. So, going to talk about, any questions on that, the certs?
What
Go.
was the sword one?
The sword one was CRTL, Certified Red Team Lead. And that is 0 Point Security, you wrote that. Go ahead.
Which one is the best when you want to get into the industry? Like when you want to,
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
which certification do you recommend when you want to get into the industry?
Oh, which one do I recommend?
Yeah. Like
Probably PJPT.
Yeah.
That's like the junior penetration tester certification. Tons of content. It's fairly cheap compared to everything else. So,
I had a question too.
go ahead.
Would those certifications normally be something that you would do like after graduation, or would you encourage students to even pursue that while they're still working on their undergrad degree?
Yeah, I would pursue while working on the undergraduate degree for sure. Yep. Building your brand, giving talks at events like MISAC, CSA West Michigan, GurCon is a great way to do that. Improve FOSS tooling. FOSS stands for free and open source. So the offensive cyber ecosystem thrives on like just open source tooling. So there's tons of stuff like Responder is a tool, NetExec, which just replaced CrapMapExec. But all these tools like need to be fed and watered. So if you're able to like improve those tooling or make it more OPSEC friendly, people will really care about your contribution to the ecosystem. And that's as easy as just doing like a pull request on GitHub. Yeah, writing blogs. I can't tell you how many times like we're interviewing people and they're like, hey, dude, check out my blog, and we'll just like drop it in the Zoom chat right in the middle of the interview. And yes, I will check out your blog while I'm interviewing you, because that'll give me like some introspection to how do you think, like how technical you are they a good writer? Because in consulting, the deliverable at the end of a penetration test is a PDF report that is written by the engineer that did it. So not only do you have to be able to speak intelligently during that Zoom out brief, they also have to be able to write that report. So writing is a big piece of that. Webinars, yeah, there's, I think you guys all know what webinars is, but I go in these all the time, not just for cyber, but also for just being an entrepreneur. I'm constantly getting pinged for those. Podcasts. Going on a podcast is a great way to build your brand. Even if nobody listens to it, you can still say, hey, I went on this podcast. Some podcasts that are really good if you want to listen to some cyber ones. Risky Biz is one I listen to all the time. And Darknet Diaries. So Darknet Diaries has a lot of ex-NSA folks on it, just talking about stuff that they shouldn't be talking about. Then also competing in competitions, hacking competitions. When we hire folks full-time right out of college, it's typically because they are a stellar performer on their hacking team at their school. So there's going to be more content on the compete piece here in a second. Find your crew. So this is actually University of South Florida. Almost like they're doing like a gang shot right there, like, but they're called the Cyber Herd. They're a competitive collegiate hacking team. You actually have to like try out and apply to be on the team because they're super solid. Most of the athletes receive full-time offers while in college. Wasim is their captain. We tried to hire him. He was already poached by a competitor of ours. So cool thing about Wasim Al-Baba. So we wrote a very custom Azure cloud-focused CTF. CTF stands for Capture the Flag for HackSpaceCon in 2024. And I told our cloud engineers that were writing it, all right, I want it to be barely feasible for them to actually finish it within the time frame of the event. So Wasim actually beat our CTF. He went all the way through without ever having touched Azure before. That's the sticking point. He had never touched Azure, and he basically went through our CTF that was almost undoable. So he actually got a black badge, so he can go to Hackspace Con free for life because he beat our CTF. If you're not familiar with it, Hackspace Con is down in Florida. Oh, and he actually he works at Trace 3 full time as a cloud engineer while going to college. That guy is, you have his face, he's currently interning at WKL. His name is Fagan Afandia. Oh, I lost my mouse. There it is. Okay. I love our interns. We've had them from Carnegie Mellon, Brandeis University. We had 8 from GDSU. One from California Polytechnic University. That was Dylan Tran. Actually, Dylan is right there. We offered him a full-time offer that was deep 6 figures when he was a junior in college, and he was poached by IBM. So he did not end up here. This is Manny Vargas. He is transitioning out of active duty Air Force right now. He's going to be starting his SkillBridge internship in May. If you guys don't know the SkillBridge internship program, if you're active duty military, you have the last 6 months of your active duty time to intern at a private sector company. So a lot of folks will reach out to WKL like, hey, I work at the NSA or I work at the Air Force, I'm a red team operator, I'd like to come spend my last 6 months of active duty time working for you. And they were actually paid by the federal government while they're working at WKL, so it's a win-win. This is Fagan. He's down at University of South Florida. He's part of the Cyber Herd, and he's actually doing engagement for us right now. This is Gopala Prakrashnan, graduate student at Carnegie Mellon. He wrote a really cool framework as part of his internship where you could feed his program just like a binary executable for Windows, and his program will automatically like obfuscate the strings, because a big part of when you're writing malware is like getting rid of all those indicators of compromise that are like already signature string-wise. So that was part of his summer internship. Any questions on that? Okay. Okay, common misconceptions getting into offensive cyber is that you need to get a job, to get experience. Pico CTF is free. CTFing is free in general. Hack the Box, if you haven't heard of that, that's an online like LMS platform. They try to gamify learning how to hack. That's free. This little juice box that has the flag stuck in it, that's made by OWASP. OWASP is the Open Web Application Security Project. But yeah, that's free. It's just like, you just spin it up on a web server that you control, and you can practice like doing cross-site scripting, server-side request forgery, all the normal OWASP top 10 bugs. Learning to code, Visual Studio, and then GitHub Copilot with that. TryHackMe is another gamified learning platform for learning how to hack. Anti-Siphon, InfoSec training. Some of their courses are free, some of them are not. We used to teach on the Anti-Siphon platform, John and myself, so it just depends. And then Burp Suite Web Security Academy is completely free. If you're not familiar with web application and API penetration testing, the main proxy that is used for professional web app hackers is Burp Suite Professional. And the company that makes that is FortSwigger, and they run the LMS Web Security Academy. What's cool about the Web Security Academy is that even if you get stuck trying to exploit a bug, they'll give you hints, and then eventually they'll give you the entire answer if you can't figure it out. And there's different levels within the Web Security Academy, like beginner, intermediate, advanced, nosebleed. So offensive cyber moves incredibly fast. Ways to stay fresh are staying involved in the community. Discord channels, I can't even tell you how many Discord channels I'm in. Slack, same thing. LinkedIn, there's always like new cool tools being dropped on LinkedIn now that everyone's like kind of navigating away from X. Social events, competing CTFs and podcasts. I'm gonna say my favorite podcasts again, Risky Biz and then Darknet Diaries. I'm just gonna keep pushing those. Risky Biz is more, it's less technical, it's more like how the industry is doing, and then Darknet Diaries is just hacking stories. All right, my challenge. Does GVSU participate in the National Collegiate Cyber Defense Competition?
Yeah.
Does anyone know?
I thought it
You guys
said
do?
yes.
Yes! That was the answer I wanted. Okay. Are you on it?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Is anyone in the room on the CCDC team for GVSU? Go ahead.
No, but we have an organization called Hackers Analyzing Threats, and I believe they're preparing for that.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, not to like light a fire under your guys' butt cheeks, but the first regionals is February 8th. All you need is 3 students. Actually, you need 4 students because one needs to be a coach, and then you need 1 faculty member to like sponsor. If you guys need help, like funding, like paying for lodging at events, travel, like reach out to me. I'm all about like helping the community. So, but yeah, so there's regional events, and then if you do well at regionals, there's also nationals. So WKL, my company, we hire right out of college out of the CCDC top teams, which is why I had a picture of USF on there. Any questions on that? I wanted to give a little bit more of a primer into offensive cyber. This is part of the deck that we use when I'm actually pitching to clients, prospective clients. So what is a red team operation? WKL is testing companies, people, process, procedures, as opposed to a pen test. A pen test is more of a smash and grab, running vulnerability scanners like Nessus or Qualys. We're running Nmap, so we're not trying to be sneaky. So on a red team, we're not trying to get domain admin, we're doing an objective focused engagement. I mentioned the GVSU engagement earlier. Oh, this is a really fun time. So there was a water treatment company that reached out to us, and they wanted us to simulate breaking into the water treatment plant and then planting devices on their network that we could access remotely and actually shut off their like detection and logging for like poisoning water. So we did a proof of concept where we gained access to all 4 water treatment plants. We put Raspberry Pis in the network, and then we simulated doing an attack where they would not be able to detect it and to poison the water. Kind of scary, actually. Internal penetration test. So this is just a very vanilla internal network penetration test. If I was to do this at GVSU, I would either drop like an Intel NUC on the internal network so that I plug it in, DHCP takes over, unless there's like static routing or something. Or we could just like ship you guys an OVA and then you spin it up in VMware. But anyways, we're starting on the inside of the network, and the goal is just to get domain admin. So we're doing things like port scanning, LDAP enumeration. We're doing spoofing attacks, cache poisoning, LLNR. And the goal is always to get domain admin. So a lot of our internal penetration tests, we're finding boxes that have AD sync or AD connect involved, and we're trying to pivot to Azure and then back. If we get to Azure, we try to do a global admin account takeover, which is the equivalent of domain admin on the on-prem network. Risk of success rate. So web application and API source code review. This is one of our most mature practices at WKL because we get asked all the time for web app and API penetration tests. So we go far beyond just the common OWASP top 10 bugs. We're trying to string bugs together, find like deep flaws. We're trying to pivot to the cloud environment, etc. So our engineers that are on the web app and API team at WKL, they're usually experts in Python, .NET, and then JavaScript. Oh, yeah, so this success story was really interesting. Have you guys ever all heard of Zillow, like the real estate web application? So it was a company that does the same thing as Zillow. So imagine when you go to apply for a rental, you have to give your social security number, like a passport, driver's license, all your information. So one of our engineers took advantage of the app's broken access control for this client and did a full admin account takeover. And they were able to pull like all the clear text username and passwords for anybody that had ever logged into that web application. So it was kind of cool. And then after they were able to do that, they were able to access like passports for all the people and driver's license. Physical pen test. Do you guys want to hear about a physical penetration test that didn't go well?
Yes.
Okay. This is being live streamed and recorded, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to change it a little bit. So it was for a client in Grand Rapids. they helped make the COVID-19 vaccine, so it is a very secure facility. White Knight Labs was given bad intelligence by the client. We were told that there was no third shift at all at the factory. We were also told that there was no roaming security at the building. So it was around like 11 p.m. when we started operating. It was two-man teams. I was with an intern, and then John, my business partner, who has deep experience at physical access operations, he was also with an intern. The guy that was with me was Dave Peters, and then Kurt Weiber was with John. So anyways, me and Dave were just like sitting in the parking lot observing the movements of the security guard, and he would get up randomly, just walk around the outside of the building both ways. He would walk through the internal of the building, and we realized pretty fast that we were going to need like 100% visibility on the security guard if John and Kurt would be able to operate and break into the back of the building. So the problem was the security guard noticed that we were sitting in the parking lot, and he came out and told us to leave. Insane. Okay, while we were also sitting in the parking lot, we noticed that there was there's tons of activity for the third shift. So there was employees coming in and out of the cafeteria. So even though we were operating in the middle of the night, there was tons of activity at the building. So Dave and I, we go across the street, and we have to like low crawl. It was poison ivy, we learned after the fact. We were low crawling in poison ivy because we still wanted to keep eyes on the security guard, just not on the client's property. So at that point, we have eyes on the security guard while sitting in the poison ivy. And Kurt and John, they're trying to do surreptitious access, break in from the back of the building. The security team from the other company next door called the police on them. At that point, the police come. Dave and I did not get caught. We left. The next thing I remember, I was coming back from our hotel after getting changed because I wanted to get like all the poison ivy oil off of me. And John and Kurt, they were in the back of the cop car. I found out later the police had actually shut down the bridge when they tried to leave. AR-15s, shotguns on them. They treated it exactly like it was a real break-in. So they were not interested in seeing the get out of jail free card at that point. I came on site. I was like, hey, I'm the other owner. I was here. Here's the get out of jail free card. And then they were allowed to let go. So that's a time when things didn't go well. Usually we just reverse tailgate, like an employee is coming out of the building, we go in behind them, we clone a badge, we have persistence, badge access, but not always.
You have a question over there?
Go ahead.
So does the security guards and everything, like they don't know that you guys are trying to break in?
Great question. Security never knows that we're trying to break in. There's usually one or two people on the white cell. The white cell is the people at the company that know that we're supposed to be there, and they're typically the ones that sign the get out of jail free card. And we have their contact information on there as well. If an operator is like on site, they have to have the get out of jail free card on them in case they're detected. Anyone know any software supply chain attacks that have happened recently? Code's backdoor, gets pushed out to GitHub. Millions of people download it. No one knows it's backdoor? No? Okay. That's been happening like frequently nowadays. So what we started doing is a DevSecOps assessment where we'll play the malicious developer. We'll be hired by a client company, and we're essentially just sent a laptop, same access a developer would have. Can we backdoor the code, third-party libraries? Can we hard code like a cookie in so that into the code so that I can access and have persistent access to like a super admin account if I want to. And we're successful pretty much 100% of the time on our DevSecOps assessments. This is just a recent occurrence. We've been doing it for about a year. ATM testing. So we do ATM testing with this. The main objective is usually to get it to jackpot it, which basically it spits out money until it's empty. So I would say we're able to do it about 50% of the time. But Matt Birch used to work at WKL. He doesn't anymore. He gave a talk at DEF CON in 2024 called "Where's the Money At?" I think is what it was called. But that's a really cool talk if you guys want to check it out. His name's Matt Birch. Yeah, our ATM success story. So we designed some malware to interact with the extension for the financial services API or XFS on a dispersed cache and device. We basically looped the script so that it automated it through a virtualized USB gadget, and then it just essentially kept spitting money until it emptied the ATM's cache cassette. So more of a niche thing that we do a lot of embedded testing as well. Yeah, here we go, embedded testing. So this is all part of offensive cyber, by the way. It's a very large bucket. So embedded testing. Anyone have any Bluetooth headphones? Wow, feels like everybody. Okay, so those Bluetooth headphones usually can like enable GPS. They connect to a cloud backend. There's all kinds of stuff that you can do, but that would be an embedded device. Now there's also like your fridge is an embedded device. Washers, dryers, anything that connects to the internet. It's getting kind of scary what we have access to or what we can pivot into. So medical testing, like testing the security of medical devices that are embedded is a lot of fun, like pacemakers. Like, can we stop Granny's pacemaker for like 1,000 miles away that's connected to the internet? A big ask for us right now is like companies like Burrow AI. A lot of these autonomous robots that are doing farming, they'll reach out to WKL asking for a test because they're concerned about like, what if the robot like runs over an undocumented worker or something? Yeah. That is it for the slideshow. Yeah, you guys, like, I'm still here if you want to pick my brain on anything, CCDC related, offensive cyber, military, NSA, CISA. Go ahead, dude.
So for all of you guys, I'm the vice president of the GMSU Hack Club. If you guys are interested in some of this stuff, talk to me after this because I can look you up on Discord. So.
Boom!
I'm your guy.
Yeah, what is it like a weekly event? What do you do?
Yeah, so every week we meet on Mondays at 7 p.m. And next week we actually have an event going on. Might not be for, we're doing, what is it? It's kind of like using,
Open source intelligence.
yeah, open source intelligence stuff. So like looking at like reverse engineering, like you're taking, look, if someone takes an image somewhere and say, okay, locate this image, where
Oh,
is
that's
this
data?
going?
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So we get an event like that next week, and then every other Monday will be like our normal meeting. So we do CTF, we do Pico CTF a lot, and we just talk about like cool cyber concepts. If you have anything you want to like look into or like any projects, you can talk to us about it, and we can like look into kind of doing some of those projects if you want. So.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to compete?
I mean, we could train up for it.
Okay. I think it's pretty tightly scoped for cryptography and reverse engineering.
Okay.
So.
We'll look into it.
What kind of advice would you give for somebody who, you know, maybe is like either a veteran that's coming back to college and maybe they weren't in cyber while they were in the armed forces, but they're interested in it, or you know, maybe somebody that's in like Air National Guard right now and they're like, wow, this sounds really cool, but like whatever I'm doing for Air National Guard has nothing to do with cyber. Like, just maybe reflecting kind of on your own career path a little bit, or just kind of on what you know, like what kind of advice would you give to students like that?
So not really in college, but post-college, they're leaving active duty, or they're in, but they want to transition into cyber. I would say a lot of the same advice that I gave about just like building your brand, improving open source tooling, get some entry-level certifications under your belt that don't break the bank. I mean, all of TCM Security's certifications are pretty legit. from the EJPT, which is the junior one, through PMPT, which is replacing OSCP shortly. And then just getting involved in the community, for sure. Yeah. I can't tell you how important it is when you go to look for a job, how many people know you. So. I mean, most of our staff at WKL, I met at DEF CON, Black Hat, or Hackspace Con. I met with Seem down, he was at Hackspace Con from the University of South Florida. I met Fagan Afandia at Hackspace Con as well. But. Any more questions? Does USU have like intentionally vulnerable Active Directory or anything where you guys can learn how to hack? Like hands-on? Anything like that?
Cyber range, I guess. Like,
Okay.
but other than that, there isn't too much of that. But yeah, we do have a cyber range that I haven't dealt with it too much yet.
Yeah, it's isolated from this network. It's like, it's on its own network.
Okay.
It's a room full of like a bunch of computers and a bunch of screens, and they have like virtual machines running on a Linux system, and where you can roam freely pretty much without going outside of
Okay.
that own network.
Do you have to be physically in that room to use it?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey guys, if you want to learn how to like just attack web applications, APIs, or networks in general, there's also there's things on GitHub that are intentionally vulnerable to learn hacking. There's like virtualized embedded devices. There's Goad, which is the game of Active Directory. So you just spin that up using Terraform, which is like a cloud infrastructure automation way to do that. There's also Ludus, Ludus, which is made by my buddy Eric Hunstad. So you could essentially deploy an entire Active Directory environment using Ludus as well. I mentioned JuiceShop earlier. That was made by OWASP, intentionally vulnerable web application where you can learn about the OWASP top 10 bugs.
So when deciding exactly like what you want to do, for example, when you're getting into pen testing, so for example, like the region, the blue, red team, so how would you come about that mission?
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's a great question. So when you're getting into cyber, how do you know where you want to gravitate to? You know, if this was like 1995, there would just be IT. But now there's development, and then even within development, there's like iOS, Android, like Windows, Linux. Yeah, you don't really have to go red or blue if you don't want to. You can just go straight development. You could be an infrastructure engineer. If you want to go blue, you could be like a SOC analyst. That's a great place to start, or sysadmin. Sysadmins typically make really good internal network penetration testers because they've been sort of like administering these large enterprise networks, pushing GPOs and Active Directory for years. Yeah, so I can't tell you the amount of red teamers that I know that are world class that used to be blue teamers. But there's no one size fits all. It's really what you're passionate about. If you find yourself like reading blogs on like the same thing over and over again, like really crazy web app bugs on I don't know, like a bug bounty platform, maybe like go do bug bounty and go attack web apps. Go ahead.
So how much of the job market requires a secret clearance or top secret?
So WKL, we're just in the we're like moving into the federal contracting space. Like we have a cage code. We're like going through the e-offer process, but you don't really have to have a clearance to work in offensive cyber. I mean, it helps, of course, because then you can work on large federal contracts that are like year over year. So usually the companies that are playing in that space, that's all they do. Like 6Gen, I used to work there because I have top security clearance. But yeah. Yeah, definitely not a prerequisite to work in cyber though. having clearance. Go ahead.
Would you recommend going into a blue team first or red team, or does that not really matter? Like just to
We
build
end
a
up doing like,
foundation.
yeah, we end up doing a lot of blue team work as a red teamer anyways, because you have to, like, so whenever we want to do a red team operation, we do like mission checks, like OPSEC checks on all of our tooling. So we have access to a lot of the top tier EDRs like CrowdStrike Falcon, SentinelOne, things that we're to find in the enterprise environment. So, okay, all right, like CrowdStrike Falcon detected my loader here. I need to like rearrange how I'm calling these APIs, or there's a YARA rule that's detecting my Cobalt Strike beacon. I need to change that so that it's not detecting that part of like the bytes. So, I don't think that being a blue teamer is a prerequisite for being like a good red teamer though.
So would you say for like those certifications, like the, can you go back to it?
Yeah, sure. This page?
Yeah.
Yep.
So like, would you say the top one's like beginner friendly, or do you need like a foundation of like, you know, like a foundation of like network security and stuff, more blue team?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
A hacking certification is not going to teach you computer science fundamentals. So do not expect to learn networking and like programming at a deep level. This one is the PJPT. It's literally like the bare bones to get you started attacking Active Directory and conducting like open source intelligence gathering and then external penetration testing. Yeah, and then, so if you want to do like network penetration testing, this would be the chain. It would be like PJPT, PNPT, and then CRTL. And then if you want to do like straight red teaming, I would do like ODPC and RTOC down here. I know it's like kind of weirdly printing my own courses, but there's nothing like it on the market. Like the ODPC, you have to write loaders by hand in like C, C++, or C#, and you have to bypass top tier EDR solutions as part of like the hands-on certification exam, and you have 40 hours to do it. So it's really terrible. We made it as terrible as possible. But does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Go ahead.
So you have to, or you're learning the basics by yourself and then going to these certifications, right? Is that what you?
I don't think there's any replacement for learning like having a really firm computer science foundation, like how operating systems work, and that kind of stuff takes years. This is more like I want to get into hacking right now, and maybe like I don't have like a college degree, so I'm gonna go do PJPT or PNPT, and these things can be done while you're in school too. So this is like $300. I think this one's $400. So pretty cheap compared to like a 4-year degree. Yeah. Yeah, let's keep going, dude.
So, how long will it take for you to go through this certifications?
So our SkillBridge intern, Todd Krebsbach, he did this one in a week, and he did this one in 2 weeks, and now he's doing OSWE. And I told him, like, this isn't that bad, this is slightly worse, this is really bad. Like, this is a very, very challenging certification, but I told him, hey dude, like, you passed this, I'll hire you full time. So he's going after it. Yeah, at this level and this level, you could probably knock these out in a week to a month, depending on your experience. These, not so much. These are more like 3 to 4 month time commitments. And then we usually typically see people that are like in the industry for about 5 years going after our certs. Any good places to eat in Allendale?
West Side Social.
West Side Social?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like more towards GR, but it's like halfway
Okay.
towards GR.
Does the subway still exist? I used to work there. It doesn't? Wow. They couldn't make it at a college town? Oh, that is a better choice. Okay. Less bread. There used to be a Chinese buffet in Allendale, where like they used to get like styrofoam and plastic cutlery. I'm assuming that's gone.
I think that's been gone for a long time.
He knows.
I'm the only one who knows that
Yeah.
answer, yeah.
Yeah. There used to be